Welcome everyone to the April the 21st regular business meeting for the Buffalo Board of Education. We will rise and pledge of allegiance. We will follow after that with the board, a conversation on the board recognition. Please rise, and on the count of three, please let's say the Pledge of Allegiance. On the count of three, 1, 2, 3. I
I
pledge
pledge
allegiance
allegiance
to
to
the
the
flag
flag of the
of the
United
United
States
States of
of
America
America and to
and
the
to the
republic
republic for
for
which
which
it
it
for which it
stands,
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 one
one
nation,
one
nation,
nation,
under
under
God,
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
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 with
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 liberty
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 and
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 justice
justice for
justice
all.
for all.
Thank you. Thank you for coming to our board meeting. This is our monthly meeting. I'd like to remind our public and listening audience that we do normally have 2 additional meetings prior to this meeting on the first and the second Wednesday, in which most of the business of the board is conducted during our workshops and our committee meetings. I'd like to start today with talking about an event that happened at one of our schools. In honor, it's ironic that this month is National Child Abuse Month, and we have been expanding the exposure with that. We have done some things with the cyberbullying, with the child pedophile situation that our children experience on the internet. And we talk about child abuse next year. I hope that we will continue to expand it. However, today at MST, we lost one of our brilliant students last weekend. Her name was Lanisha Johnson. I say her name because oftentimes in our community, the names are not spoken. You will hear a woman 18 years old. Today, the community agreed that we don't feel that our 18-year-olds are truly up and grown. Okay, we still feel that they are babies. And the community was very much in support of the things that I said today. One of the things I said is that as a community, we share a double loss in this situation. We struggle with getting our children to graduate. And when we have students who are college bound and prepared, readily prepared and able to move forward, and tragedy happens in their life, for us, it's a double blow. And so, Dr. Cash, I want to assure you that today it was clear that we have a community that stands united with this district to move things forward, to improve our children, the social emotional issues, as well as the academic issues. And I want to send our regards, our condolences to her sister, who is a student at Burgard, her brother, who is a student at Riverside, who courageously stood up today and spoke on behalf of his sister. We had other student people, leaders. Our board member, Tamisha Walker, spoke courageously about her experience with domestic abuse, and she sent a message to our young ladies. I hope we can get that tape and we can share it on our website. Then a young lady who currently is a junior at MST, Talia Payne, who is a friend of Lanisha Johnson, spoke. Sierra Johnson, no relationship, spoke. Also, she is a grad. She graduated last year. She knew this young lady. And I think the young man, Terry, uh, also, her brother really spoke in a big way. Her guardian was there. She also spoke in regards to her concern, and she echoed my sentiments that this young lady was a baby. She was just forming. She was just about to bloom into what she could be. And so, in addition to me being there, we had 2 board members. We had Hope J from the North District, as well as board member Terrence Hurd. We appreciate the fact that they were there to support the MST community as well. And I'm going to open it up to the board at this time. If the board would like to say anything to the family of this young lady or to the community, that this is the time to do so before we move forward. Do we have anyone that would like to say anything to this family? Okay, I see a hand, Mr. Terrence Hurd.
Yes. Good evening, everyone. It's really, really sad that that we had this event held today, and event to talk about social emotional learning. We talked about child abuse this evening, and we also spoke about our children. You know, what's the path for our children, and you know, this district has been working hard, and the Educational Support Committee has been, you know, working towards, you know, prevention of abuse, and abuse comes in many different forms. And it's so sorry that this caregiver, Adrienne McCain, had to come to this meeting and speak this afternoon to talk about her daughter and her family that needs help. So I know President Cobbin already reached out to the district about helping this family, and I appreciate all the efforts that she gave to her, you know, supplying some social emotional help for this family. And it's really hard to speak upon this, but it's something that really needs to be addressed. And this woman was 18 years old, but we know that she was a child that's in our school system, and we really need to look at more ways and find more ways to help students that may be going through, you know, any type of emotional distress in their lives. You know, whether it's coming from home, a relationship, society, gang warfare, the streets. It can come from anywhere. There's many different types, but we got to work to identify these people that need help. And some of us may have experienced it in our lives at some point in time, but you know that it doesn't feel well, it doesn't feel good, and sometimes you don't even recognize the pain that someone's in, or a person may not recognize, you know, that they're in this position. It may be in the name of love or trying to keep a relationship together. But Mrs. McCann, from me personally, I would like to say we're sorry that this happened, and we will work very hard that this doesn't happen to another family, another child. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Hurd. And yes, Mrs. McCann has promised, and I didn't even know she's my neighbor, believe it or not. And so we're gonna, she has some great ideas, Dr. Cash. She said she'll be calling in to the community meetings and being a part of that. And our next hand that went up was Board Member Hope J, followed by Vice President Lou Petrucci.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay. First of all, I want to offer my deepest condolences to the family of our student, Miss Johnson, and I want the community to know how deeply sad and troubled we are. I'm speaking for myself as somebody who daily works with victims of domestic violence and has devoted a large portion of my professional life to advocating for and working with victims of domestic violence. This is particularly troubling for me to have one of our students fall a victim to a domestic violence homicide. And I want to make this very clear to anybody that's listening that we're not talking about child abuse. We're not talking about gang violence. What we're talking about today is intimate partner violence. And it's a whole different type of violence when there is power and control issues in a relationship. And particularly when we're talking about adolescents. There are thousands, hundreds of thousands of teenagers who get involved in these types of relationships, and these power and control issues come into play. And because these are young girls, young women who don't have a lot of life experience, they don't realize or understand that they are in a relationship that is abusive. There is emotional abuse, there's psychological abuse. There's something called coercive control. And coercive control is when somebody attempts to control what's going on in your life. They try to tell you what to do. They try to tell you what to wear. They try to control what you say and who you talk to. And they're very jealous. And sometimes you'll see stalking behavior and things like that. Those are all examples of coercive control. And these types of relationships are fundamentally power and control relationships. And a relationship that ends in homicide like this is the most extreme example of power and control. And I want to be very, very clear. In a situation like this, there aren't two victims. There's one victim. And the victim is this young woman who was murdered. And again, I think it's important as professionals, as people who are trusted to work with adolescents. Domestic violence affects people in all aspects of life, all ages, all socioeconomic statuses, all parts of life. And I think it's really important that we find some time to talk with our students about how to understand the signs of emotional and psychological abuse so that they can recognize it for themselves and that they can reach out for help, that we educate our staff and our administrators on recognizing the signs of coercive control and intimate partner violence, and that we provide resources to everybody that's involved in working with these young people so that they know where they can reach out for help. We have tremendous resources in our community. The Family Justice Center is one. There's domestic violence advocates that work throughout the court systems. I recently founded a nonprofit organization, and we work exclusively with victims of narcissistic abuse and domestic violence. So I just want the community to know that there are many, many resources available. There are many people who are trained in this area who can come out and speak to our students, myself included. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Hope J. Next, we have Board Member Lou Petrucci.
Thank you very much, President Cotman. I'll be brief. I don't want to detract from Board Member Jay's powerful words. I just wanted to offer my heartfelt condolences to the Johnson family and all those individuals, including our fellow classmates, teachers, everyone that's been impacted by this terrible, terrible crime. Again, my heartfelt condolences.
Thank you, Board Member Vice President Lou Petrucci. Next, we have Jennifer Macuzzi, Board Member from the West District.
Again, so as not to be repetitive, I just truly want to put forth, my utmost condolences, and also to state that there is much that we have responsibility for in our communities, and maybe breaking down the silos and really bringing forth all of the resources available. We can maybe deter something like this from happening again. To the families, to the family of this young woman, my heart goes out to you, and I really don't know what else to say. I couldn't imagine how you're feeling or what else to say, but just, know that my heart is with you.
Thank you, Board Member Macuzzi. Next, we will have Board Member Ann Revere.
Terrible tragedy. And I want to offer my condolences to the family, friends, and community of Ms. Johnson. As a board member, I agree with Ms. J that we need to work with our district colleagues in supporting and educating staff and students on intimate partner violence. And I hope to be engaged in those efforts as well as the efforts that President Cotman referenced in her remarks.
Thank you, Board Member Ann Revere. Next, we have Board Member Larry Scott.
I just want to send my strength and love to the Johnson family and friends of Miss Johnson for this horrible tragedy. This is hardest for them. I also want to recognize our crisis team, the mental health professionals, the school community, MST, the students, the staff, the teachers there, because this is also very hard for them, hard for the helpers that are helping those that were close to Miss Johnson. cope with this loss. So sending love and strength to them as well.
Thank you. Let's see. I think I've hit all board members. If I have Dr. Kathy Evans Brown.
Thank you. I just want to echo some of the sentiments that was stated already.
We lost you. You went back, Kathy. You went on.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you. Mm-hmm.
Must be a ghost. But I want to offer my sentiments as well to the family. There, contrary to what's been said, this is Prevent Child Abuse Month, and this was a child. There's a parallel here. I can't, dismiss that. Domestic violence is real, and we need to have culturally competent service providers in the community that these young people can go to and feel that their information is going to be safe. Silence in this area is not an option. If you see something as a young person, say something. If it don't feel good when you're with a partner, it is not good. It's probably not. And so education is important when we talk about relationships. I think there's a tremendous pressure, to keep these kind of matters private. There's no privacy when it comes to being abused. And so I think that, moving forward, we have to do more, with these young people. It starts young. Particularly in the Black community, it is really prevalent, and it's always hidden under the carpet. We got to make it more prevalent because our young people are dying, just like the older folks are. So domestic violence is real. Again, my sentiments to the family, and you have our support. If you need anything, let us know. I work in the community as well, so I see domestic violence all the time, and I do have some knowledge about how to put educational programs together. So thank you, and Godspeed to you.
Thank you all for that. I thought it was very important that this board speaks out on that. Oftentimes, these victims or the victim does not get a chance to have a voice. From our community, we are grieving the loss of 2 lives in regards to this, and that's how we feel. And unfortunately, it has happened, and we grieve. We grieve, and it does not. It does not take one from the other. We are sorry that this has happened. One of the things that the conversation has been at the school about ideas that they can do, and Dr. Cash, I'd like to talk about possibly moving this throughout the district, is to provide a something that has come up to be the Lala chest, that was her nickname, or the Hope chest, where it would be painted purple. There would be a box where children can put their concerns or names of students who they feel are in trouble, and that would allow our support teams to have some knowledge about what's going on with some of the student bodies. Dr. Eberly and his staff, I have to salute them. They are they're just a great group of people over there. They're working to turn that school around, and they have a lot of empathy. And they are not allowing excuses such as a child being in poverty to be the lamplight for children not being successful. They have high standards, and they're working these children. So I think we've spent a portion of our board meeting, but I thought that it was important that we speak out because both of these children were our children, and if we can get them through Dr. Cash, if we can get them through school, we certainly want to get them through life. And so we want to talk more about what other resources we can provide. I'd like to give a shout out to your staff members who were there. You had your associate leader, Toya Wilson. In addition to that, you had the principal for the Burgard who was supporting her student, who is the sister of this, Charlene Watson. You had the peacekeepers there, Pastor Giles. You had MVP was there. who is doing an initiative on violence in our community, and I'm going to ask him to come forward soon to present it before the board. And I'm sorry if I missed out any other names, but we just had a family meeting there at MST in the snow today, Dr. Cash. Made me think of opening day in February. So
Yes.
I thought it was important that we send a message out to these young people, and that and I want to talk more with staff about what we can do and bring it before the board, how we can grow this initiative and make sure that this negative becomes a positive, and that children, and this never happens again. So thank you for that. So without any further ado, Dr. Cash, I'd like for you to take over the meeting at this point and talk your superintendent's update.
Okay, colleagues, thank you. I wanted to commend you for that segment. It was unplanned, but it was absolutely necessary and essential and timely. So I'm so proud and pleased to see all of our board members so actively and willingly to attack this insidious problem. This is a problem that is not talked about as much as it needs to be. And I see it as an opportunity for strategic investment with our ESSER funds. This should go to the top of the class, to the top of the list of the kinds of things when we talk about what our children's needs are, short and long term, the kinds of things that they grapple with on a daily basis, pre-COVID, post-COVID, during COVID. They just need a lot of our support and love. It's amazing, frankly, that so many of them are as resilient as they are. But many of you have expertise. I'm hearing that. And you will see in these meetings that we're going to be having in the community over the next couple of weeks, as well as the one on Thursday that I'll mention in a moment. All of this ties in. All of this ties in. When we talk about gun violence, we talk about domestic violence. I think relationship abuse is a very critical topic for our young people to talk about. And our young people will talk about it if we give them a safe space to do it. We're going to include that in our agenda going forward. And President Cotman, I commend you for giving your colleagues a chance to talk about it in the public. We will address this issue.
Thank you.
Okay, colleagues, we have Dr. Dennis Quo with us, as he often comes when I ask him to. I think it's very important that he be here tonight for a few minutes just to give us some high level observations about what is going on and why we need to be where we are and hold the course, because there is conflicting narratives going on out there right now, and we're not going to be conflicted. We're going to be clear. So Dr. Quo, if you could share with us in your own good way, like you always do. We're so proud that you're on our board as medical director. Let us know your observations and where we ought to be going, because we are going into phase 3 on Monday and bringing in a good number of students. And how does that impact with what's going on in the community right now?
Okay. Hi, everybody. Thank you, Dr. Cash. Thank you, board members. Again, a pleasure to be here. We are in an interesting phase because we want to, as Dr. Cash said, I think we can and should continue to move forward in the way that he has outlined. There has been some more updated information and guidelines that continue to evolve. And that includes some updated CDC and New York State guidelines for operations of schools. The guidelines state that there's, again, multiple layers that have to be taken into account, including distancing, masking, screening, ventilation, multiple layers that have to be included when you consider the safe operations of schools. The guidelines from New York State specifically state that there has to be ongoing monitoring and containment of potential transmission. And both New York State and CDC guidelines also have different recommendations based on the prevalence of the disease in the community, that threshold for the highest prevalence category, so like the top category of the highest risk category, what they consider the red zone, is the number is 100 cases per 100,000 persons over a 7-day period. And that number, the threshold for the red zone is 100. Erie County's numbers over the last 6 weeks, the lowest it's been, which was in mid-March, was 169. Last week it reached a 371, and in this week it was reported at 359. So the biggest driver of risk in the school setting is actually community levels. And so we have, when the community levels are very high, we have to make sure that our policies and our protocols are adhered to make sure that we do have containment of any potential risk for transmission. We are working very, very closely with the Erie County Department of Health. They have been very good, very fantastic partners. We share data openly. We do our own contact tracing. They do their own contact tracing. We compare everything. And our goal is to make sure that there is no transmission within the school setting. To go a little bit deeper into the city of Buffalo, we have a major wave of COVID right now in Erie County. We are in the Western New York is really the outlier right now in the entire state of Western New York. The cases are lower in the rest of the state. It is the highest in Western New York. In the last couple of weeks, the cases in the city of Buffalo became the highest in the county. It was not always the case, but they are now currently the highest in the county. And data that the Erie County released yesterday, it is important to recognize that, as a few examples, East Buffalo, 14204. Remember that the threshold for the red zone is 100 cases per 100,000 per 7 days. The 14204 zip code was 851 over the last 7 days. 14215 is 655. 14211 is 681. So we are very, very high levels within the city of Buffalo. In addition, we know that the cases are skewing to a much younger population. That includes not only your young adults and your children. We think that we are very much under testing in children. Our test positivity rates, we had utilized another statistic called the test positivity rates. And if the test positive rates are high, that means either there's a lot of disease out there or you're under testing, in which case you're underestimating how much disease is out there. The test positive rates in children in Erie County have been in the 10 to 15% range over the last several weeks. In the adults, they've been sitting in the 3 to 6% range. So they are very, very high in children right now, which tells me that we are very much undercounting what's out there in children. It is true that most children do not get severely ill, and we are continuing to see that most are not getting severely ill. However, when you have that much disease out there, you will see sick kids and you will see sick adults. And I think folks have seen in the news that the hospitals are at capacity again. The ICUs are full. Children's Hospital is actually quite busy right now and has been seeing a lot more kids than we saw in December. So that is something that we need to keep in mind, that our burden of disease is very high. And even though we actually do have a fair number of individuals who are now vaccinated, the disease burden is so high that we have to be very careful and vigilant in when we are opening schools. Now, I am very glad to tell you that we are doing everything that the CDC guidelines are doing and more. The distancing, the masking, the cleaning, the ventilation. Like kind of the gold star part is to do very close work with ECDOH and on-site testing for both screening and for testing when there are individuals that come down with symptoms. We are actually not getting a whole lot of positives in those testings, but we do offer it. And we, as we had mentioned in the previous meeting, we have our own state-issued limited site laboratory license, which allows us to do our own testing along with the states to be able to do surveillance for what's going on in the schools. We get reports every day of the number of cases of individuals who are affiliated with Buffalo Public Schools, students and staff and teachers. We look at every single one of them. We look and see if they are in the schools. We look and see if they are out of the schools. Some of them are outside the schools and therefore do not contribute to in-school transmission. Some of them are in the schools. We looked at when they were last in the school. We do contact tracing internally. We have an incredible medical team that does that. And we work with the Erie County Department of Health, who then looks at the outside the school contact tracing. And then we come to a decision about what we need to do. We have not found any evidence of in-school transmission of any of our schools, despite the fact that our cases are 6 to 8 times higher than the red zone transmission, the red zone threshold. And I think that is actually a remarkable achievement for the protocols that we are following and the adherence that we're seeing across all of the schools. And I am comfortable continuing with the phase reopening that Dr. Cash has outlined because of the very ability of us to test, to trace, to isolate, to openly look at where the cases are, and to be able to make sure that they are not in the schools, or if they are in the schools, that they are isolated quickly and that there is no evidence of in-school transmission. Because we can do that, I'm comfortable with continuing to reopen. It has to be done carefully considering the burden of disease that is circulating right now. Now, I do think that the cases will come down fairly soon. We are seeing cases stabilize in the county. We are seeing cases stabilize in the hospitals at a very high level, so we are still at risk, but we are seeing it stabilize. I do want us to remember that it is a multi-layered process, that there's so many factors that go into operating schools safely, but we also have to make sure that we offer a stable, predictable, nurturing experience for our children. We have to make sure that they feel safe in the schools. And as the rates continue to change, we need to constantly readjust with the ability to test, trace, and isolate. So the protocols will continue to change as more and more students are offered the opportunity to return. We have the ability to keep this under control. I'm very proud of our team so far. I'm very pleased to tell you that so far we have managed to keep every case to a containment within the schools. And that's our commitment. We will continue to evolve. I'm happy to answer questions. This has been fast moving. And I will stop and see if there are comments or questions.
Thank you, Dr. Kuo, as always. If we have board members that have questions, you can ask those. I would ask you, Dr. Kuo, as we bring in phase 3 students and phase 4 2 weeks after that, I think we should take advantage of that site license to test and test more students in the coming weeks and more of our staff as we start to bring more into the school environment. Can we do that? Do we have the tests available to do that?
We do have the tests, and I have discussed that along with our team. They are there, they're available. They are there for use if we see any hint that there might be concern in the school. We know that there are different recommendations, for example, for the high schoolers, for adults and staff, because historically, as we know, the adults have been the ones that have been more at risk for more severe disease. And so it offers us another opportunity to make sure that we are not seeing spread in the community. So yes, we have, we actually ordered more tests and received more tests than the initial allotment we got for phase 1. And the state has actually worked with us to make sure that we not only got our license quickly, that we have been tracking and getting the delivery of the additional tests so that we can actually do what we need to do.
All right. Well, thank you for that. Let's get ready though to test some more people so that we can hold the line and hopefully not have to disrupt classroom learning and school-based learning by shutting down schools and closing down classrooms, because that's what will happen if we don't stay vigilant to our safety protocols. So as always, thank you. Any questions from board members, colleagues? Larry, did you have a question?
Yes, thank you, Dr. Kuo, for breaking that all down for us. So I hear you saying that Erie County, although we've plateaued the past few days, it looks like, or even have dropped some in some of our cases, that especially in the city of Buffalo, we're seeing the highest amount of cases, especially among younger kids. And we're well above that CDC threshold. I was on a meeting with my son's school today, and the principal indicated something very similar to what you said, that there's been cases in the school, but because of the mitigation protocols, there has been no evidence of transmission. And so there's, as you know, there's conversation, there's changes with the 3 feet, especially for the younger students, elementary students. And I'm just wondering what your thoughts are for us to get to a place where we could start talking about bringing back more of our younger students, potentially 5 days a week.
No, thank you. I know that's a pretty hot topic. I think the conversations should be there. And I think the part that should happen, that we should think about, is we need to be able to test, trace, and isolate and ensure when we are going to disrupt and when we are not going to disrupt if we see cases. As you noticed, as you have been told, there are cases in the schools. They're just popping up and they're not spreading because of our protocols. One thing to consider is that, I think the biggest thing to consider is that this, more than anything else, is the importance of culture and the importance of adherence to protocols. And, I think it is no small feat that we have been able to continue with our phased reopenings without, despite the fact that our cases skyrocketed over the last 6 weeks. One of our challenges is to make sure that we do keep up with the contact tracing. And right now, our contact tracing and our test, trace, and isolate, right now, when a case pops up in the school, our goal is that when we know that policies are adhered to, we stop because there's no risk. When you change the flow and the density in the school, that calculus starts to change. And that is what we need to consider when we have our discussion with our, with our families, with our teachers, with our, with ourselves. And when the cases definitely start coming down, I think that is the time to have that discussion. I do think that we can and should plan. And as Dr. Cash mentioned, we do have to test to be able to do surveillance when that happens. I think the issue right now is that we're just seeing cases. Every day we're seeing multiple cases. And we have to calculate, are we exposing anybody in the schools? Right now, the default answer is no. When the default answer becomes, if the default answer becomes yes, then that's not the time to start to put more students in the schools. When the cases become more isolated and we know we can test, trace, and isolate, I think that's the time. And I think that is a discussion. There's not really a threshold, but the guidelines also state clearly that this is a joint discussion between all members, understanding that when we test, trace, and isolate, and we look at the safety of everyone involved, along with the need to maintain our continuity because we don't want to disrupt learning, we don't want to put anyone at risk at the same time, those are the factors we go in when we have that conversation.
So Larry, every 2 weeks, we're going to be looking at this to see if we can bring, for example, our pre-K to 2 youngsters. It's just a high priority to try to get them into a 5-day-a-week modality. But right now, and I've looked at this data with Dr. Crow, we are sky high with these cases, particularly among 10 to 17-year-olds, which is just mind-boggling. Not 10 to 17, 7 to 17-year-olds. And So when we start Monday with the high school, see, we'll take a look at that, see how that sifts out. And hopefully we got it. I don't know. I don't even know what's going on. It's not all sports. It's not all attributable to sports. It's just some folks are tired of it, I think. I think some kids are saying, I'm done with this. And meeting and, you know, gathering and going places, and then it comes back home or it comes back into the school and what have you. So I want us to stay the course, stay on the big 5, which is masks, social distance, 6 feet minimum. Make sure that you wash your hands, warm water 5 times a day. Be courteous when you sneeze and sniffle, and then don't come to school sick. See, one of the things that people are doing, they're going places knowing they have symptoms, knowing they don't feel well, and boom, it spreads. So not right now, but we'll keep watching it every 2 weeks, Larry and board members, to try to move toward a time when we can go that way for some populations of children. But it just may not happen this year. It may not happen this year. It's just the bottom line.
Thank you, Dr. Cash and Dr. Quo. So the potential is still there if things improve.
Right.
But I just want to make one more comment, especially since we have parents that are listening in, parent leaders, community leaders that are listening in. I was in a meeting with Dr. Williams regarding possibly the Health and Human Services coming in to do some additional testing. And one of the challenges we're seeing right now is that we're having difficulty with parents giving consent for their children to test. And so I just want to encourage our parents to provide that consent, especially as we're returning more students, because that's going to help us in assessing whether there is transmission and how much of that transmission exists or how many cases exist in our schools.
That's right.
Yeah,
and Larry,
remember,
that test is not as invasive. Dr. Quo, if you could reiterate, some parents are still thinking it's that one that goes up into the brain, and you know, they're afraid of that and think it's too invasive. This one they're saying is not invasive, but it's much more reliable. Can you comment on that, Dr. Quo?
Yes, I can. The test that we're looking at, that we use, is just in the nose, up in the front, and it doesn't go all the way into the back. So it is something that is extremely safe to do. Our nurses are trained to do it, and it is used for screening purposes. As I mentioned in past meetings, it's used for surveillance, and it's used to just get a sense of what's going on in the schools. And Board Member Larry, I'm very, very glad you mentioned that. That is actually an active conversation piece within our medical team, that the more families that are able to give us the opportunity to work with them to see what's going on in the schools, that very much helps our ability to assess and move forward with changing and looking at the density of how many students are able to be in the school. That's actually a very, very key piece of it, because, and that really is very much part of New York State and CDC guidelines, that you have to be able to know where the disease is and know it's okay.
Okay, colleagues, we have a number of speakers that are there, but we are following the agenda. So if there's nothing else for Dr. Quo, I'd like to let him go about his way, and we go on with the rest of the board recognitions that are up next. Is that all right with everyone?
Thank you, Dr. Cole. Yes, Dr. Cash, we need to move forward. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Quo.
We have
Thank
some
you.
additional guests on here as well, if I can see.
Yeah, I've got it taken care of. All right, colleagues, we have under board recognitions next, 2 recognitions or several recognitions that are coming to us this evening from the New York State School Boards Association. So that we're delighted by. The first item is certainly we want to acknowledge the extensive time and effort that board members are required to put in to continually expand their knowledge and skills for better board governance. And NYSSBA members earn credits for participating in these training opportunities, including the annual convention and the districts that they serve. So we have two members that we want to congratulate and commend tonight. First, Ms. Paulette Woods. She has participated in leadership development opportunities totaling 250 hours, and that's a big deal. And then Jennifer McCosey participated leadership development training totaling 75 points. So thank you, board members, for continuing to improve your knowledge and skills that ultimately benefits our young people. So if all of us could give a round of applause to our colleagues, that's really good. Admir, you can take that piece down. Admir. Okay. And Paulette and Jennifer, I have your certificates. So we will make sure that Fred or someone delivers those to you soon, very soon. Okay? Congratulations. All right, now, next we have Mr. Paul Longo with us. I thought I saw him just a moment ago, and he's an NYSSBA, New York School Boards Association member relations manager. And he's here to give us an award. And I want to hear what he has to say, and then I might have a concluding comment. Mr. Longo, this is your time for us. Are you there?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you for being here, sir.
Thank you so much. And I want to thank you all for having us on behalf of our president, Fred Langstaff, and our executive director, Bob Schneider. I'm here. You can see Dr. Cash was holding up a PDF. That actually is representative of a banner that we have sent to your district. And I just want to take a minute to explain what we're recognizing and the program that actually, where we do the recognition. So the program is called Champions of Change. It was Champions of Change for Kids. We tried to open it up more because what we're looking for, I had the opportunity of January, just before COVID hit, have a fantastic meeting with Dr. Cash. And we're talking about the challenges and the successes at your district. And we also have a program called Eclipse. I'm sure most of you received those. And that's an aggregate site that takes media, education-related media from all over the state, in some cases nationally, for us to kind of recognize what's going on in the districts across the state. We can all kind of read those articles and learn more about what's going on. Others have reached out to others, seen something that's going on in a district, and said, "Hey, how did you go through that?" And it's kind of been this shared learning experience. And so we look through those clips for positive things that are going on through the state. And we developed a program. We have an awards and recognition committee. Actually, the two members who just had those recognition that he just held up, that's part of that committee and part of that program. And we have another program that we created, the Champions of Change for Kids program. And what we do is we actually look for initiatives in the district that are creating change for either the students, the admin, the staff, and or the community. And so we actually saw an article, it was in the Buffalo News, it's from Rod Watson, and he was talking about a program, I believe it's through your Office of Culturally and Linguistically Responsive Initiatives program, right, office. And so we saw that you guys were inviting speakers, some speakers from all over the country. In this case, specifically the author and speaker, Mr. Ibram Kendi, and he spoke regarding anti-racism. And from what we understand, Dr. Morrell moderated an hour-long Q&A with Mr. Kendi on December 9th for 600 to 700 teachers, administrators, parents, students, school psychologists, board members, and other stakeholders. And obviously, this past year has been a big push for DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. And we know that this office is really working more specifically with equity. And so we saw this program, we took it to the committee, they loved it. They thought, and it was the change that you were bringing through programs like this. And not only, doing it, but also in such an uncertain year, financially uncertain year, that you continue to actually fund these programs. You know, there's a lot of districts had to make a lot of cuts this year. And, you know, there's a lot of programs that were canceled. So we didn't really we saw very few programs that were kind of making it to the press. And we saw this, we just thought it was fantastic. And so we mailed a banner to your district. We apologize because of COVID, the mail system really is not as reliable, even FedEx. So you should be receiving that. Again, I apologize for you not having it right now in hand, but you will be getting that. And so that reads Champions of Change for Kids. And we're recognizing the Buffalo City School District Board of Education for your anti-racism initiative. And we are so proud to have you as members. We're so proud of the great work you guys are doing. And we just like to applaud you with this banner, somewhere you can hang this, you know, to recognize the great work you're doing. And if we could, just give yourselves a round of applause.
Very good.
Fantastic work. And we look forward to seeing so much more from you guys. I know there's a lot going on. You guys are really leading from the front on this. And I'm just very proud of the work you're doing. Thanks so much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And Mayor, could you take down Okay, thank you. Mr. Longo, thank you so much. That was just a joy to hear from the esteemed New York State School Boards Association. And I know all of our board members are very, very proud of that work. I would like to segue and simply say that work continues. That work is going to happen 24/7. We have to sleep in shifts on this work because it's never done. And our young people have to come up in a better world. We can do better, and we're certainly going to lead that charge. So tomorrow, Mr. Longo, under the leadership of Dr. Fatima Morrell, you know, who's my captain on this work, we're going to have a We Can't Wait for Justice town hall meeting that is going to be led by our scholars. Our young people are going to lead that conversation. And we're very pleased that Mayor Brown, Crystal People-Stokes, our majority leader in the state assembly, and our board president, will be there to make some few remarks, just a few at the beginning, but then that time we want to reserve for our students. And some of the topics that they'll be addressing, you know, we don't play here. We don't play. We get right into the meat, into the gist of it. And our students are becoming more articulate and more confident leaders as we go. I'm just so proud of what Fatima is doing. But look at the topic: role of systemic racism and racial bias, the impact of community gun violence on our youth. There's too much gun violence going on. But I think we can now add, not necessarily tomorrow, but in future town halls, we're going to talk about, you know, relationship violence and abuse and so forth. Those are topics our students are ready to grapple with. But at the end, it's a positive. It always ties back to a positive, Mr. Longo, where we want our leaders to become. We can't have a democratic society if we don't develop the voice of our young people about what's right and wrong.
Amen.
What's right and wrong. And so we're going to get them in this conversation. Dr. Morrell is going to have us on fire, as she likes to say, and she says that the scholars are ready. The scholars are ready. So please join us tomorrow, and you're gonna hear about this all the time, and it's going more and more. What the biggest impact is, it's more and more being infused into our day-to-day curriculum. See, our everyday curriculum. We call it our Emancipation Curriculum, and it's good for all children, not just Black children, brown children, children of color. It's good for all children to learn about all cultures and all journeys and stories that we have to offer. It's not a subtract curriculum. It's not a takeaway curriculum. Certainly not a cancel curriculum. It's an additive curriculum and an embracing curriculum where we all learn and discover each other's story. So very proud of the work, and we are especially thankful and grateful to you for presenting us with this special award. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me. Really appreciate it. Again, see you.
Hope to see you tomorrow.
Yep.
Colleagues, I just have a few. I'm going to make this brief. but it is substantive and it relates to the speakers. So first thing I wanted you to know under my update tonight, colleagues, is that we have not only the town hall tomorrow that you should all have received some notification about it, but I've been putting our cabinet is actually right now as we speak going through 5 sessions, 2 hours each, of what we call Equity Literacy Training Institute for educators. And this is the senior staff going through this. So I sent you on email just a while ago some of the abilities, knowledge, and skills that we are reinforcing in that training. This is being provided and presented by East Ed. Elizabeth Denevy and Randolph Carter are the consultant presenters for us. So good start off to the first session today, and we'll continue because you can't really talk about it. As Sharon was saying earlier, you got to be the change you seek. You got to be the change we seek. Otherwise, we're just talking about it. So we're going to be about these behaviors and these initiatives. And if you look closely at them, they're absolutely on what we're talking about here. So I'm very pleased with that. Number 2, we have a list of our summer programs. Some of you have asked about, well, what will we be doing for our young people during the summer? And if you look, we've begun a fairly robust array of summer programs for our youth to catch up on their skills, and help them go ahead in their skills and knowledge and enrich their knowledge and skills. So there are different kind of camps and different kind of opportunities for different children. We're even going to have sports camps so that they can get this physical activity. It's pretty bad for our young people. They haven't been getting out, and they got to get out and get going again. You know, I was out running some of the kids the other day, and that means you're in really, really bad shape. So, and then we're going to work on a program. I just want to allude to it because it's something that I think we might be onto something with the mayor. The mayor and I will be sponsoring what we call a Earn While You Learn program.
Awesome.
And colleagues, there are some young people, I'm not saying it's all the kids, but there's a cohort of kids that they had kind of disengaged with us during the year, and we've got to bring them back into the fold so that they have a chance to graduate, and so they have a chance to get back on path to graduate. And so we are talking about incenting. The mayor very graciously said, well, why not, as part of my summer youth program, and you know, they come to work, but they come to work to do their work, to do their schoolwork, see? And they get paid for that. While they do that, and while they learn some soft skills and on-the-job skills as well. So it's something we're exploring. We tried some of this in Memphis. I didn't get it as deep as I wanted to because I left the year after that. But they are doing something like this in Washington, D.C., and we're going to tailor it to the needs of our children here in Buffalo. I think it was Lou Petrucci who said, you know, a lot of our young people, they need dollars. They need dollars to support their families and to help themselves to get food, to take care of basic needs during the summer and during the year. So we're going to look at that. That's on the deck. That's on deck. The next issue, colleagues, an item I wanted to bring to your attention. I sent out a letter this afternoon. President Copman and I talk at least once a week, and she said, you know, let's get this out as wide as possible to invite people into the conversations about the use of this ESSER money and funds. So we've started to sponsor a series of community meetings. The first one will be April 29 from 4 to 6 p.m. You see the letter that I've sent out to over 100 of our local civic leaders from all different levels and walks of life here in Buffalo. And they're going to be invited to join us. They have been through that letter. invited to join us in the first meeting and in all of the subsequent meetings. So we'll continue to inform the public via a robust communication plan that Ms. Calla is working on as we speak. So I think that's good news. It's something that you had asked for, and it's something that's required, frankly. And we'll be very innovative about making it an ongoing effort and different ways, multiple ways for the community to give us feedback on the investments that we need to make for our young people. All right, the testing is going okay, colleagues. As you know, you can anticipate it's just a relatively small percentage of our students who are signing up and have signed up to take the ELA Section 1, and even smaller number for math is what I'm hearing from Ebony of our OSA. But we'll give you a full number and percentage and break it out by race and gender and so forth by the end of this week. And we'll send it out to you so you can see very specifically who took the test and who did not. But we have offered it each day of this week. All right, we're ready to go for phase 3 on Monday. You've heard a little bit about it this evening. The only sort of cross your fingers and toes is, you know, we got to make sure that the system holds for more kids coming on. You got to understand, this is a year unlike any other when it comes to technology traffic, technology highway traffic. There's more kids and staff have been on the technology highways than ever before. And so when more come on, and both at home and in school, the system gets wobbly, it rattles and rolls a little bit, and you may experience some outages. We hope not. But we have done remarkably well when you consider what's been going on across the country with the various vendors who provide that service to us. So we'll stay tuned, but we're ready to go otherwise on Monday. And then I don't think I have any more tonight, colleagues, to say, but I would strongly urge you to have a committee meeting, a workshop or work session on some of these issues that were raised tonight at the top of the meeting. It's very important that we not lose track of that issue for our young people. And we will be there with staff to see how we can make sure it gets meshed in with our overall curriculum work. Ms. Cotman, I'll finish by saying you had talked about some lead ambassadors that were mental health ambassadors. I think anytime our students are trained to help other students, that really is positive and powerful.
Thank you.
And so even in the whole issue of relationships and seeing the signs and knowing what to do if you're in an abusive relationship, all that kind of training needs to happen with our young people as well, so that they can help other young people see it. Because they talk about this stuff all the time on social media. And I just think it could be a much more educated dialogue if there were some helpers and pavers in those conversations. So that's where Hope's ideas and conversation, you know, her training can be helpful. And then we can get other community leaders to come and just support the overall work. You know, it's so important. So that I hope is helpful to you, colleagues. Thank you for your interest and your time. I would only say that you do have the 4-year financial plan on the agenda today. It's important for you to get your questions and try to get that addressed today, because we'll be out of time to get it approved by state law. I just want to alert you that that is on the agenda today. All right. Thank you, President Cotman. I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you, Dr. Cash. We're going to move forward. I want to say to our speakers, we do appreciate that you are here to be heard, and the board is interested in hearing you. However, at this time, the board welcomes speakers who have signed up to speak at tonight's meeting. Please be reminded that all speakers' remarks must be limited to 3 minutes or less. We ask that speakers be mindful that this is a business meeting open to the public and televised locally. Attendees and viewers include persons from throughout Western New York, including children. This board asks that speakers conduct themselves professionally and that their comments remain civil and courteous, bearing in mind that we will be heard by people of all ages. This is an opportunity for Buffalo's residents to address the Buffalo Board of Education about issues that serve the public interest and district's mission, and the board asks that speakers demonstrate appropriate decorum. Thank you for joining us. With that said, our first speaker this evening is Louis D'Angelo. I have Citizen Common Hope Buffalo Public Schools Comprehensive Sexual Health Wellness Policy. Mr. D'Angelo, are you there?
Thank you, Ms. Cotman.
Thank you, sir.
Hello, and just thank you all for the time today to discuss how our partnership between Hope Buffalo, which I am the project manager of, and the Buffalo Public Schools can be leveraged to support equitable implementation of the Buffalo Public School Board-approved wellness policy, which provides a map to supporting our youth in our schools with the knowledge, skills, and behaviors that they need to achieve optimal health, including some of those skills that we've been talking about, or you all have been talking about, around healthy relationships and skill building. So over the past 5 years, we've invested over $250,000 into the Buffalo Public School District to support implementation of these evidence-based programs that the Hope Buffalo Collective supports, including reducing the risk and be proud, be responsible. That does not include the funds that we've set aside and supported community partners, including peer educators and community health workers delivering these programs in your Buffalo Public School health courses. We've reached over 5,500 students over the last 5 years, and this year we are set to reach 2,779 students this year with these evidence-based programs. This past school year, we also purchased 65 digital 3-year remote bundle access licenses for our Buffalo Public School health teachers as they transition to remote and hybrid learning. And these are important because we know that the youth risk behavior survey that the Buffalo Public School collects from their youth shows that these programs are effective in reducing our risky behaviors among students, specifically when students were exposed to these programs and comprehensive sexual health education. We saw decreases in premature sex, unprotected sex, and increases in things like condom use and healthy relationship skills. Right now, we're seeing a rise in STDs across Buffalo and Erie County. And we just are really calling for your support today, and we really need your support to equitably implement your award-winning wellness policy, Health is Academic, in our schools. And I'm gonna ask you to leverage the resources that Hope Buffalo is offering you all to ensure that our youth, parents, schools, and communities are achieving optimal health, including some of those things, again, that we talked about, and allowing us to be the change. Thank you.
Thank you. Hope Buffalo, is that the organization that Stan Martin is a part of?
Yes, ma'am. Stan is my director, and I know you've been a champion for Hope Buffalo previously, and we appreciate it. And I also want to recognize all the hard work that Dr. Tanja Williams and Mai Wynn from the Department of Social, Emotional, and Wellness Supports have given us, along with Sue Baldwin, Director of Health and Physical Education.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make clear because there are several Hope programs out there. Just wanted to make sure we're good. Thank you very much. We appreciate that. Next speaker is Mr. Sam Radford, CAO, We the Parents and a Parent, concerned with the cultural MOU district-wide number 59. Mr. Radford?
Yes, I'm here. Good evening, Board President Common. How are you today?
Good morning. Good evening, sir.
Thank you so much, board members. First of all, I want to join with you in offering my condolences to the Johnson family. As you know, I lost a granddaughter who was also a student at MST. So I'm particularly sensitive to when we have to bury our children. Children shouldn't bury parents should bury children. The children shouldn't bury parents. And so So I also want to thank Dr. Tanja Williams, who called me twice a day in relationship to some of the issues that I was concerned about, or we were concerned about, and I've heard in Dr. Cash's comments, some of them being responded to. So I have 3 concrete questions I want to ask the board to consider in my 2 minutes left. The first one is if the board would consider a resolution on school zone cameras. The Buffalo Common Council has already passed a resolution calling for the ending of the school zone camera program by a 6-3 vote. I'm asking the Board of Education join them. As you know, Buffalo is the 3rd poorest city in the United States of America, the 2nd highest child poverty rate, and to have a school zone camera program that takes money out of the pockets of people in our community and sends it over to people in Switzerland, just seems like to me not the most effective way to address school safety. School zone cameras don't stop people from speeding, but a speed bump would, and it don't cost the people in our community and the poor communities. We have 20 schools that have them in front of them. We don't even have them in front of our school, and a high concentration of them are in our poorest neighborhoods. We just feel like this is an inequitable, unfair program, and we asking the board to consider a resolution to call for the end of the school zone program. The next one is the public school, as it relates to the closing of Enterprise and Westminster Charter School. Our question is that because 25 of the Buffalo public schools are performed lower than in math and reading than Enterprise and Westminster, we would like to know if there will be a guarantee that any child that has to leave one of those charter schools, or Enterprise in this particular case, would it be a guarantee that they will have the right to be transferred to a school in good standing and not be transferred from one low performing school to another low performing school? As it relates to Westminster, we would like to know, because this was the anchor school for the Promise neighborhood, what is the impact, since we spent tens of millions of dollars on the Promise neighborhood, what is the impact on the Buffalo Promise neighborhood program by the closing of Westminster School? We also would like to talk a little bit about the open, transparent process as it relates to the ARP funding. But I did get a letter today at 4:47 that I haven't had a chance to read that kind of begins to address some of the issues that we have. But Lou Petrucci, you will remember the last time you were on the board, the last time we got this funding, we had some real concerns about how that money was spent, the TARP funding that came in. And so we would like to know for sure that parents will be listened to. What they have to say will be taken into consideration. There are 2 more things I have to say, but time is running out. So if I can get an answer to those questions, that will be a good start. Thank you, board members. You have a blessed night.
Thank you, Mr. Radford. Any responses will be done to any speaker tonight at the end of the speaker agenda. Allison Giomondo, teacher, Westminster Community Charter School.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you, Board Member President Kottman. Hello, Superintendent Cash, board members, and members of the community who are listening this evening. My intention tonight is to speak on the behalf of Westminster Community Charter School, but before I start, I'd also like to give my condolences to the Johnson family, and my thoughts and prayers are with all of those who are affected by this tragedy. In regard to WCCS, I firmly believe it is safe to say that a global pandemic can and has been an absolute unforeseen uproar in our school communities. Given recent circumstances with our school, in addition to a pandemic, our students and their families need more support now than ever before. I'm reaching out to you, our school community, and I'm asking you to help our scholars and families by listening to their concerns and giving them feedback when it comes to what may be the only consistent and positive component of their everyday life, meaning their educational environment. Westminster prides itself on its close-knit community, collaborative work, positive and nourishing learning environment, and most of all, going above and beyond for our kiddos to ensure success that is not only academically based, but with each child in mind, looking at the whole person model, using evidence-based practices. Earlier in this meeting, during opening messages, it was stated that as a district, it is our goal to get our scholars college and career ready. And this is exactly what WCCS does on a daily basis. I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak of the concerns that many have in our community, and please have an open mind when it comes to considering the issue. Thank you for letting me speak. Have a blessed night.
Thank you. We appreciate your comments. Next speaker is Chandra Fisher, parent, in regards to reopening. Is Chandra Fisher available? We will come back at the end of the meeting, at the end of the list of speakers, to just revisit to see if she has returned. Natalie Tan, parent, school reopening. Are you there?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, Superintendent and board members. My name is Natalie Tan. I'm a Buffalo Public School District parent of a 3rd grader and an 8th grader. I'm a strong advocate for public education. I do love the city, but I'm losing my patience at this point, and I'm very close to moving to the suburbs. Dr. Cash, you very correctly asked this question in this meeting. What are our children's needs? And I'll tell you what our children's needs are, at least for my children, which is to support a 5-day in-person option as soon as possible, and put all resources to committing to a full reopening option in the fall for all children. And at the same time, you should allow individual schools to reach out to every parent in their schools to determine their needs and co-develop reopening plans. So I'm just going to tell you a little bit about this year. It's been completely soul-crushing for us as a family, for my children in terms of experience with remote learning. My children are completely drained by this remote learning experience. And I'll just give you very briefly an example from today. My son's ELA class, 30 minutes, he gets kicked out of Teams 6 times in 30 minutes. How can he learn is my question. And hybrid learning is also ineffective because how can a teacher teach in person and as well supervise the other kids in class? So in my opinion, it's just an absolute failure by educational standpoint. Absolutely cannot see it moving on to the 2nd year. You know, considering that other children have been in school since September of last year. So I have to say, I absolutely cannot see it moving on to the 2nd year. So I would like BPS to put all resources to committing to a full reopening option in the fall. And I'm telling you that I'm exhausted as a full-time working parent, so exhausted because I have to fill all the learning gaps of remote learning. I am a 8th grade math tutor for my 8th grader. I'm a 3rd grade tutor. I supervise. I make sure my children are at their computers. They're losing it. They can't do it anymore. So I'd just like to let you know that, as Dr. Dennis quoted, there's no evidence of school-to-school transmission. For us as parents, and my husband and I are fully vaccinated, the benefits of sending our kids back to school greatly outweigh the risk. There's a societal acceptance of risk, including motor vehicles. Motor vehicles are the leading cause of death for children. 5,000 children per year die from car crashes. We acknowledge the risk in sending our kids back, but I have to stress that the benefits greatly outweigh the risk. So the recap is, for this school district, you should commit to a full reopening option by the fall. So I'm just going to finish up with my son's quote. Yes, thank you. I'll just finish up. Thank you. The 5th day of in-person learning for my son after 1 year, which is on Monday, he told me this. He said, "Mom, today is such a good day for me. Everything went well in school. I had so much fun. I am so happy." Thank you very much.
Thank you. We appreciate your comments. Next speaker is Jamie Torres, parent, Enterprise Charter School. Is Jamie Torres there? Jamie, once, twice, 3 times. Next speaker, is Wendy Mistrata. I'm sorry? Wendy
I
Mistrata,
think you're
parent.
getting feedback again, Mrs. Cotman. If we can again remind everyone to please mute if you are not speaking, or please mute your cell phone. So please do those actions so we can hear every speaker without feedback. It will allow you the same courtesy. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Brown Hall. Dr. Mistrata, are you there?
Hi. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
This month, I wanted to use my 3 minutes to share why I speak at board meetings. I have two principal reasons. First, it's simply my right to speak before my elected representation for my school district. 13 years ago this month, I made the decision to enroll my children in International School Number 45. In a very real way, I hired the BPS to educate my children, and I have always believed in the right for high quality public education for all students. But I do not believe that a public school system has a right to my children. This was my choice, and I have been committed to using my personal and professional knowledge in support of our school community. You all know that during these last 13 years, I have participated on dozens of school, district, and community committees. By my rough estimate, I have volunteered more than 10,000 hours of my time. And if I haven't always expressed my appreciation for the work being done by our staff, that wasn't intentional. There are just too many people to acknowledge. But this, secondly, does not negate the fact that it's also my duty to speak. The bylaws of the DPCC stipulate that in my role as president, I am our official spokesperson. Therefore, I also feel an obligation to share thoughts and concerns from our parents, guardians, and caregivers with the decision makers of our school system. It is true that many of our issues may be addressed by district or school staff. Indeed, that is why I have spent so many hours meaningfully engaged in meetings. Again, I value those collaborative meetings. Up until 2 years ago, we were also invited to monthly meetings with the superintendent, where we could personally collaborate.
Excuse me, Wendy. Wendy, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Whoever is on the call and does not have their phone muted, this is the last time that we can hold up a meeting for you. We will have the calls muted by our administrator. Please allow this lady the time to talk. Thank you. I'm sorry, Dr. Mistrata.
That's okay. Thank you, Board President.
Go ahead. You have extra minutes. Mm-hmm.
Breath. Okay. Up until 2 years ago, we were also invited to monthly meetings with our superintendents, where we could personally collaborate on behalf of our parent leadership. Sadly, this is no longer the case. Although we know that Kreiner meets in person regularly with his cabinet, the school board, the unions, the mayor, and community partners such as Say Yes, the largest of the stakeholder groups, parents, are no longer regularly seated at the table with him. I remain committed to the belief that parents who wish to do so have a right to participate in shared decision-making. And it was Lloyd Hargrave who impressed upon me that every time we're not at the table when decisions are being made about us, we are being placed in the position of reacting. This has set up an offense versus defense narrative that is not in anyone's best interest. Therefore, every month that we do not have a meeting with him, and when my schedule permits, I will continue to use my 3 minutes to share our concerns here. And I have many concerns, but I have only time for one request tonight. May I please have a definitive response to my request from September 24th for a presentation and Q&A with our Chief Financial Officer at a monthly DPC meeting. Although we've been very fortunate to have other knowledgeable people join us with budget-related presentations, we know that there are some questions only our CFO can answer for our parent leadership that are very critical to our families. Thank you as always for your time and attention, and have a good evening.
Thank you, Dr. Mistrata, and thank you for your commitment to our district. Next speaker is Tamika Johnson, Enterprise Charter School, parent. Is Tamika Johnson there? Okay, we will revisit that. Next name is Elizabeth Haas, parent, Enterprise Charter School. Is Elizabeth?
And good evening to everyone. I am just reaching out as a parent. I have a child who is in 2nd grade and a child who is in 5th grade. I give several props and kudos to Enterprise. My children have done amazing with the remote learning. My children's grades have rocketed out of this world. My fifth grader, she's struggled a little education-wise, and she's very ambitious. And I've tried with the Buffalo Public to get her an IEP, but they won't consider her because of how hard she's worked. The Enterprise teachers have gone above and beyond to help her. I myself teach preschool, so I'm a very active parent in my children's education. And I feel that if we can come together as a community and a school and we try and strive harder to get more parent involvement, I feel that can too help the school testing and other things that people look for in a child's education. What happens inside of the classroom needs to happen at home as well. And my children love the school. I love the school. And I just appreciate all the hard work everyone's taking to try and figure it out. Thank you for hearing me.
Thank you, Mrs. Haas. The superintendent will have a comment at the end of the speakers list. Moving forward, Erica Smith, Parent Enterprise Charter School.
Good evening, board. And I would like to give my condolences to the family of the lady who was killed tragically. My hearts and prayers goes out to her. I'm calling because my daughter, Charlie German, is in 4th grade at Enterprise Charter School. She's been going there since kindergarten. And the staff, the teachers, we have a close-knit relationship. My daughter has learned so much as far as academics. Culturally, they're always doing programs to bring culturalists together. To my understanding, the test scores have raised since the last time. I'm just very concerned about if this happens, which I hope it don't, closing, what will happen with our children. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Mrs. Smith. All right, our next speaker is Favors Amari, Parent, Enterprise Charter School. Is Favors Amari, Parent for Enterprise Charter there? Okay, moving forward, Lisa Godwin, Teacher, ESSER, Federal Funding, number 97 and at number 43. Is Lisa Godwin there? Here. Okay. Next, Catrice Sweat, Parent, Enterprise Charter School. I'm sorry, Lisa Godwin, hand raised. Okay, are you there?
To unmute.
Unmute.
Oh, she's not able to unmute. Admir, is she muted by the host? Admir, can you check?
No, she's not. She's actually muted herself.
Thank you, Admir. Miss Godwin. So we have not muted you, Miss Godwin. You're pressing the microphone button. All right, you may need to log out and log back in, and we'll come back to you, okay? Is that okay, President Cotman?
Absolutely, and if you like, you can give her the call-in number as well. If
I
you
believe
need, we will come back to you, okay?
Yep.
Thank you, but we are gonna move forward, and we will come back. Next speaker is Catrice Sweat, Parent, Enterprise Charter School. Is Catrice Sweat available? Okay. No. Okay. Next speaker, Yola Manichoff Stockton. Sorry
Yes,
if I
hello.
mispronounced that.
That's okay. Yola
Yeah.
Monikov Stockton, I'm here.
Oh, I said it right.
Thank you for giving me the chance to speak, and thank you for all your work and your commitment to the cause of social justice. And I'd like to express that I share your grief for the loss of this child, Lanisha Johnson, and that she will be in her family is in my thoughts. So I am an assistant professor of photography at Buffalo State, and I'm here today to speak to you about reopening. So as a professor last fall, I faced the usual challenges of online learning. My students struggled. They failed to answer questions and to turn in their assignments, and they kept their webcams off. And when they did turn them on, I often found them in bed or in cramped, noisy spaces they might not rather let others see. And while I was teaching remotely and my partner was working also from home, our third grader with BPS student Leopold Stockton was in his room attending Olmsted 64. And please notice that I have to bend common language to say that, attending school, you know, from his room. And how was he doing? He was failing to turn in assignments. He was keeping his camera off. He was reclining in bed. He was failing to answer questions, just like my students, college students. And he was, unlike them, he was taking breaks to surf toy websites for a hit of relief. So from a bright, curious, and engaged child, he faded into the distance part of distance learning. And Dr. Cash, you spoke about how during the past year, some students have become disengaged. And I'd ask you to consider, how does remote learning work? So the teacher's face appears as the size of a postage stamp. The voice is tinny, the keyboard fails, and the child must tap with 2 fingers on a screen to write something instead of practicing the skills of writing. A worksheet which might take minutes by pencil becomes an odyssey. Communication with other children is forbidden. Messaging is turned off. Everything is disembodied and abstract, and nothing seems to function. A child sits alone with a hot plastic rectangle in his lap, instead of in a schoolhouse, instead of with trained adult professionals, instead of as part of a community. And so where are the relationships with educators and peers, and the shared responsibility that true learning requires? What was once the great civic promise of public education is instead outsourced to a slew of app developers. Now we require an advanced degree in computing and a vigilant, trained, and available parent. The parent must play the role of a teacher, IT support, food delivery worker, cafeteria staff, custodial staff, and mental health counselor, most importantly. This while fighting for her own job, if lucky enough to have one, because the parent's productivity is down and the wolves are at the door as the fangs of our social inequality gape. So if you'll just give me a minute to finish up, I know I'm out of time. I would ask you to think about this. 2/3 of Buffalo households are headed by a single parent. And this is in the city where the median household income is under $32,000. How can vulnerable parents, often paradoxically deemed essential workers, provide for their families and fill the educational vacancy left by our public institutions? So my last point is to say that during this experience, my son has acquired a new vocabulary. He now knows the words depression, futility, hopelessness, and most alarmingly, suicide. We can hardly get him out of bed in the morning. And so with all our relative privilege, we are not immune to the ravages of the closure of the institution to which we have entrusted his care. And to last point, that I practice what I Okay, I wanted to say I am now teaching in person, and I would advocate that full reopening for our schools for the children who need it most. Thank you.
Thank you. So I want to go back. Is Lisa Goodwin on? Teacher? Okay, if not, thank you very much, Mrs. Fox. Yes.
Chandra Fisher is on now.
Chandra Fisher is on.
Yes.
Chandra?
So can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Good evening. I'm here tonight as a parent and a physician because I believe that all children deserve the opportunity to be in school 5 days per week and that available data support this. It has been 404 days since my daughter attended school in person. My son takes his computer and sits in a classroom where his teacher has the impossible task of teaching in person and remote students at the same time. Not enough is said about the risks of not offering in-person school. Depression, anxiety, eating disorders, sleep disturbance, loneliness, learning loss, food insecurity are all on the rise. Currently, health officials cite high rates of COVID-19 in children as a cause for concern regarding school reopening. As long as community transmission remains high, children will continue to be at risk for contracting COVID. It has been shown, however, that schools are not a major source of spread. Studies worldwide and across the United States and examples of schools in our own community have continued to show that school-based transmission is low when proper precautions are taken. Opening schools is not without risk, but we now know how to mitigate those risks. The CDC in March provided a roadmap for schools on how to reopen. Harvard School of Public Health has provided detailed information about making buildings safer. Simple, low-cost interventions like opening windows and portable HEPA filters significantly improve airflow and reduce the risk of viral transmission. Despite evidence-based recommendations by the CDC and American Academy of Pediatrics supporting 3 feet of distance, this board and superintendent refuses to space children any closer than 6 feet fully masked in classrooms. What expertise does this board have that the CDC and AAP lack? This is the same board that allows high-risk sports to go on during a time of high community transmission, yet withheld low-risk sports at a time when transmission was low. Currently, it's high COVID rates keeping kids out of classrooms, but what was the reason for the switch to full remote just weeks before the start of the school year when rates were low? When is the medical director, whose guidance affects all of our children, going to be made available to answer specific questions on the merits of these policies? The time is now to start preparing for full in-person return to school as soon as possible. Some parents will not want their children to return to school, and a remote option may be needed for some time to come. But we need to show them that school can be done safely. We have to contradict the misinformation and disinformation and make decisions based on the facts and evidence. We have to weigh the risks and benefits of not returning to school, not just stay the course. What case level is acceptable to you? What level of vaccinations? What goalposts are you waiting to reach before you reopen schools? What if we never reach them? I'm here to tell you that there is another way to do this and a community of physicians willing to help. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fisher. I have also Lisa Godwin.
Yes, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Oh, fantastic. Sorry, I teach through Teams all day and don't have problems, but first of all, I would like to offer my condolences to the Johnson and MST families. I also feel as though we need to rejoice from yesterday's verdict because yesterday's justice was served and now it seems as though we have a starting point on helping our Buffalo community. Good evening, Dr. Cash and board members. My name is Lisa Godwin and I have taught music for the Buffalo schools for 18 years. As an instrumental music teacher, this year has been extremely challenging as it has been for most people. To make things more normal next year, I have found funding through ESSER funds that would be able to purchase PPE that we will be needing in our instrumental music programs. We need these materials to explode in a more positive way. ESSER funds are from the CARES Act from March 2020, the CRRSA of December 2020, the ARP of March 2021. It's not from the budget or from Title IV funding. New York State was given over $1 billion in ESSER funding. To qualify, the materials must ensure the student's safety and health, give resources to address the need of individual schools, and develop and implement plans for the next school year. I personally teach at schools 43 and 97. Those are the 2 schools that I'm hoping to get assistance with attaining the ESSER funding. The CDC, National Association for Music Education, and National Federation of High Schools recommend the use of players' masks, 30-minute practice time followed by at least one air exchange, along with New York State recommending 12-foot spacing for instrumental music students. We are doing that at Harvey Austin 97. We began last week. We brought back 20 students in person playing their instruments. It was amazing. I actually began crying, and so did some of my students. We have found ways to make this work. We need materials for next school year so that we can make sure that all of the students can. The 2 buildings I service have 182 instruments available. I broke down the materials that we would need through ESSER funding, the PPE that we would need, and it would cost just under $2,000. I have it all typed up, and I can send that to the board members. All I'm asking for at this moment is help in getting the ESSER funding, because everything I've read up on says that the district has to approach the state to get it. I would also like to add that our students need and deserve more instrumental music teachers and more full-time instrumental music positions. Many of our students crave involvement in the arts, which contributes to the whole child. After 18 years in this district, I love my students more than I can express in words. I feel so passionate to see these children that need more, and we have the ability. We just need the PPE to make it safe for everyone. And as a parent who also has a child playing instrumental music, she's been able to. Some suburbs can't, many schools can't. We have these abilities. Please help us do it.
Thank you very much, Teacher Goodwin. Moving forward, our next speaker is Jessica Bauer-Walker, Voices of Mothers.
Board President Cotman, good evening.
Good evening.
Tonight I will be reading a letter with several other mothers written by a group of mothers and sent to district leadership on Monday, and which we have not received an acknowledgement of. We are reading the letter this evening to ensure that it is heard and submitting it to the public record as part of tonight's meeting. I also want to send my condolences to Lorenza Johnson and her family. Dear Superintendent Cash and Board President Belton Cotman, we hope you, all district staff, Board of Education members, and your families are safe and healthy at this time. We are reaching out as an intergenerational, multicultural group of mothers and women caregivers who also serve as parent and community leaders and professionals and provide direct care, service, and support to families in the fields of health, education, human services, childcare, and housing. We want to express our appreciation for all the good work the Buffalo Public Schools has engaged in over the past year to support public education, public health, and basic needs of families during the pandemics of COVID-19 and systemic racism. We acknowledge we have all been working in unprecedented times and under very difficult and stressful circumstances. We also know through our personal and professional experience that there are significant gaps to be addressed, and that it is only through robust collaboration between the district, families, and the wider community that we will be able to ensure that each and every child and family is healthy, safe, and supported in school and in life. We believe in the power of BPS and public education to be transformative and to provide our children with the knowledge and skills they need to create an equitable, just, and healthy Buffaloan world. We cannot achieve these aspirations without discussing the historical, systemic, and present-day challenges that we and our children are facing. At the time of this letter, only 7,000 of 32,000 BPS students are receiving any in-person instruction over a year into the COVID-19 pandemic. There is limited data related to student engagement and outcomes, and whether any measures BPS has put in place has mitigated the educational inequities experienced by the most vulnerable students and families. Child, adolescent, and parent mental and physical health have shown troubling trends over the past year as well, confirmed by the CDC in a recent study. There is no current BPS data in this regard publicly available. The most recent Youth Risk Behavior Survey data on the district website is from 2017-2018. We share the following in the spirit of representing our lived reality, amplifying the voices of mothers, parents, and caregivers, and asking for understanding and action by the district on behalf of students and families. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica Bauer-Walker. Next, Khadijah Hassan, Parent Caregiver, Voices of Mothers.
Hear me?
Yes, we can.
Good evening. Before I begin, I would also just like to give my condolences for the Johnson family and also the family of MST. The next thing that we have on our letter is recognize parent and caregivers are under persistent acute and chronic stress. Parent and caregivers has been asked to take on so much work on educating and supporting our children this year, often in isolation and without adequate support. Significant gender and racial and socioeconomic disparities are impacting BPS families, the majority of which are run by female head of household in a district that is over 80% Black, Indigenous, and people of color, also known as BIPOC. Women have been disproportionately impacted by COVID-19 pandemic, leaving the workforce at a rate 4 times higher than men. Black and Latinx women have unemployment rate double that of their white counterparts. Parent and caregivers who have maintained employment are carrying an enormous workload between their paid jobs and parenting, with women and mothers providing unseen and undervalued physical and emotional labor. Many of us have also experienced sickness, death, violence, and loss in our families and community. The racial, social, and political strife over the past year has been acute and traumatizing, particularly for BIPOC families. First and foremost, we must understand and work to support the extreme challenges that parents and caregivers has been facing over a year. My next thing is developing an integrated approach for equity in all policy, practice, and programs. A comprehensive approach that addresses the academic, social, emotional, and health needs of students and families is critical at this time. BPS has historic and present day challenges related to educational equity based on race, socioeconomics, and concerning special populations, students with disabilities, English language learners, families experiencing homelessness, violence and abuse, youth in detention, and etc. These have been exacerbated by the pandemic of COVID-19 and systemic racism. Students and families with adequate and social and economic support have fared substantially better than those who do not. The Education Trust New York has extensive research and recommendations related to equity that highlights these issues. Building on the good work that's begun under the Department for Cultural and Linguistic Response Initiative, it is critical that families representing a full range of cultural communities in the district are engaged to identify equity challenges and co-create an equity task force and plan. Muslim students and families have continuously advocated for increased understanding and support of Ramadan and Eid for years with little progress. Appropriate funding and clear, transparent outcome indicators are essential to ensure progress. American Rescue Plan Stimulus Fund coming to BPS. The City of Buffalo and Erie County must support educational, health, racial, and social equity for children and families. With those impacted by disparities, students and parents and caregivers engage in this process. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Hassan. Next, Vanetta Rose, concerned citizen parent mom's letter to BPS.
I'm going to pick up where Sister Khadija left off and ensure the health, safety, and well-being of every student and family. COVID-19 has increased inequity related to nutrition, safe and affordable housing, healthcare, childcare, and internet access. Significant increases in rate of depression and anxiety, abuse, gun violence, and pediatric injuries illustrate the impact of these factors on well-being. While BPS has worked to put supports in place to help meet basic needs, many of these programs are underutilized due to accessibility and only provided in English and or online, transportation barriers, service provided during house hours, parents are working and supervising children at home, and through a fragmented system between district departments and lack of coordination with community-based resources. Now more than ever, we need to align public health and public education and work through the research-based whole school, whole community, whole child model in the district wellness policy. Recognizing the district cannot do this alone. We must create strong partnerships with community-based coalitions and networks that support the current and emerging needs of Buffalo families related to basic needs and overall health and well-being. Children need consistent care and education support before and after traditional school hours. Financial support and auxiliary education staff should be provided at local child care sites who consistently maintain these children and their families for access to safe, quality, and reliable care, education, and communal relationships. The Department of Social, Emotional, and Wellness Supports should be appropriately resourced to have the capacity to implement the district wellness policy, and the currently vacant district wellness coordinator position should be filled. The Code of Conduct and its addendum should also be reviewed, revised, implemented, inclusive of restorative justice, and in partnership with families and community. Rebuild relationships through trauma-informed, culturally responsive communication and collaboration. We are concerned that the decisions that have significant impact on our children and families are being made about us, without us, lacking critical context of their lives and experience of students and families. Informal and formal structures can build positive, mutually beneficial relationships where parents, caregivers feel valued, respected, and part of decision making. This issue brief, engaging parents and families to support the recovery of districts and schools, give guidance in this regard. BPS specific policies, practices, and programs that can be facilitated. This process include a district-wide communication plan to support consistent, clear, and timely two-way communication, regular meetings between superintendent, board of education, and parents to assess the needs of families and respond to those in partnership with families themselves. District and school implementation of restorative practice. Justice, I'll finish the sentence, with fidelity to repair harm and promote positive relationships. And you all have the rest of the letter that is sent to you already. We await a response. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Lynetta Rose. Next, we have Marlon Capron.
Hi, hello.
Marlon Capron. Marlene,
Hi.
I'm sorry.
You got it. Hi, I wanted to start off by saying that I'm really sorry to hear about the heartbreaking and tragic death in the school community. My thoughts and prayers are with Ms. Johnson's family and friends. Thank you, board members, for the opportunity to speak this evening. Our family has recently relocated to Buffalo, and we're looking at options for our two children for school for next year. We applied to have them take the test for the Olmsted and City Honors programs. My son was able to sit for the test last Saturday. However, my daughter's application was denied. The reason I was given is that admissions was unable to verify our address. And this is not true, as we provided the two proofs of Buffalo residency, along with a letter from my daughter's where she currently attends, which is not a Buffalo public school. Our address, Buffalo address, was verified in writing and verbally by her current school. I asked to see the written policy that states why my daughter's been denied, especially baffling as my son was able to take the test. I've not received a response to that email. I suspect this is because no policy exists. Many of the board members on this call were CC'd on that email, which was sent of Monday of this week, and I haven't received a response yet. I'm a tax-paying resident of Buffalo, and we're looking at all opportunities available to us, public schools and charter schools alike. Tonight, I'm here requesting for the opportunity for my daughter to take the test, just as my son was able. I'm not asking for anything to be given to her, simply the opportunity. I've spoken to a few of you on this call who are shocked and confused as to why one sibling could take the test while another one couldn't. So I have faith that you'll publicly support me here. As time is of the essence, as you know, the last test for incoming 7th graders is this coming Saturday. So I'm looking to receive a confirmation that my daughter Elliot can sit for the test as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your comment. Solomon Myrie, Senior grandparent role modeling for our children. Mr. Myrie, are you still online? Mr. Myrie? Once, twice, 3 times. Gonna go back over this list. Catrice Sweat, parent, are you online? Okay. Also, Tamika Johnson. Okay, with that said, that ends our comments from our speakers. Dr. Cash, response to the speakers from the superintendent, item number 5. Is Dr. Cash there?
Mayor, could you take that clock away? Thank you. Yeah, colleagues, I think I'll look at this as global this evening. There are 20 speakers. I see some groupings here that we need to respond to. Certainly the charter school community, the Westminster and the enterprise community, you should be assured that we're working and have begun to reach out with the administrative teams of those 2 schools, with the board presidents of those 2 schools. A letter has been written and sent from the superintendent and the board president of the Buffalo Public Schools out to those respective communities. And we expect to begin a very constructive, positive transition for both schools. We have a plan in mind that's been designed, and we have some of our top staff that have been assigned by me to work closely with those teams. We would like to hear from the enterprise community as soon as possible, and we are waiting to do so. On the issue of school reopening, a number of parents talked about that, and talking about the needs that, or really the trauma that they've been going through this year, the travails, the stress. And I would say to you, colleagues, that all of us have been touched and traumatized by the events of this past year. I'm getting to be older now, and in our wisdom years, our grandparent years, and I have never lived, and I've never even heard of a year like the one that we were trying to navigate through as individuals and families, let alone as large school systems. We have largely been left to our own device on how to navigate through this year. The policies have shifted weekly. There's been far too much politics injected into the decisions about whether to return to school or not. And at the end of the day, this will be a year that we all hopefully will understand that we did our best. We did our best to save lives. We did our best to protect our children and our families. And I have arguably one of the most difficult jobs in America today to make sure that we do not lose any of our children. There's been over 3 million deaths to this pandemic. And I never wanted to lose one staff member. I never wanted to lose one child. There's been hundreds of thousands. There have been a high number of deaths, much more than a few or just several. There have been a lot of children that have died from this. And there have been a lot of children that have been that are still suffering long-term effects from being sick from COVID. And I wonder if that ever happens to any child, what the conversation would be if I had been reckless in my decision-making about this. We are going to make it a priority to recoup the psychosocial effects of this on our children, the mental health effects of this on our children, but we have to bear in and had to work to be supportive of it as we've gone through this. There just is no easy, simple answer to all of this. So I don't want to make it a contentious issue because I do have extraordinary faith in our staff. They have been superb. Our teachers have been, our principals have been, all of our staff have been, and our cabinet leaders in these areas that you are alluding to. So when we talk about mental health supports, psychosocial supports, and the needs of families, you're correct, parents, when you cite some of the statistics and some of the disproportionate impact on communities of color. We understand that. I know those statistics. We live those statistics. I've lost several family members to this pernicious disease. And so I don't want us to forget any of that and the trauma that we all have suffered. And so we're going to make it a priority in our funds and in our strategic investments as we go forward. There's no question about it. And we're going to do it with your input and with your partnership. You can be assured of that. So I'm excited about the next phase. I want this phase to get past as soon as we can, as soon as we can all get vaccinated, as soon as children can begin to get vaccinated. But there still are far too many that aren't. And in our zip codes, in the Buffalo public schools, particularly for children and families of color, the numbers are sky high. You heard that today. They are sky high. And a report just came out refuting all the scientific basis. We haven't been in this disease long enough to have a whole lot of scientific knowledge about it. It just hasn't been long enough. So today, for example, this report just came out on ABC that there is more transmission than we thought that can occur in schools through children. Just came out today. And you will continue to see those kinds of evolving studies. So I don't want to argue with you about statistics, about what people say, where things are safe. Just make sure you keep your child safe. You keep your child safe. And then what we will do when we open schools, at the process and level that we're going to open schools, we will do our best to keep the children and the staff safe. That's my commitment. And in terms of education, our children are resilient, they are resourceful, and they will catch up. They will get back on track. I have been in this work long enough to know what our young people can do with just a little support, a little help. So you do your part as a parent, and we're going to do our part as a school system. And together, we will get our children to wherever they need to be. So that's where I'm going to end my comments tonight, President Cotman. And I thank all of the speakers for coming down and sharing with us this evening.
Thank you, Dr. Cash. There were 3 questions that a speaker placed before the board. My recommendation in regards to those 3 questions is for the board to move them over into committee. One of them was about school zone cameras. One was about in a comparison, an inadequate comparison of Buffalo public schools to charter schools. Our schools reflect all children. Okay, they do not reflect portions of children. So when you start comparing Buffalo public schools, make sure you have your stats correct. In addition to that, when you are conversating about Buffalo public schools, make sure that you differentiate if you are talking about Buffalo public schools versus Buffalo public schools and charter schools. I would appreciate that. So what we'll do in regards to that is move that into our committees. It is a conversation already that the board will need to have in regards to the school zone cameras and what's going on with the Common Council. And we will further talk about that in the near future. In regards to charter school students, we will respectfully treat all students equitably and fair. And that's how we roll, okay? And I need to go on record one more time to say because the Buffalo News put out an editorial about a charter school execution in regards, and my name was listed. I want the Buffalo News and I want our community to know that when it comes to education, Sharon Belton Cotman has not only been critical of charter schools, she's been critical of Buffalo public schools. And anybody who has ever watched me in a meeting or a committee meeting or staff who has worked with me behind the scenes, when the joke is Mrs. Cotman is coming in, get your pens and paper ready, okay? That is letting you know that I have agendas and I'm moving things forward. So to paint a picture that I am targeting any schools, I go on record to say that my ancestors died, and I stand on their shoulders for the rights of all children, all parents to be able to select educational institutions without discrimination. But you cannot go 5, 10, 15, 20 years and not produce and not have a charter school office that holds you accountable. It's over at this point. So I don't care if you pull a picture out of me from 2008 of me looking like I'm attacking someone. I don't care. Today was proof positive that my community respects me and recognizes the work that I am doing in our community. Okay, and that's what counts. That's who puts me here, and that's what I'm about. I am not about discriminating against children. I do not play that. Okay, and if hard decisions have to be made, I, like many other board members, spend countless hours pondering the roads to go. And I'm not going to be sorry for children. I'm not allowing excuses to exist for children being in poverty. I do not accept that. I read an editorial in the news about that the poverty rate is higher in certain charters than other schools. What does that have to do with academic success? I came from a poor family. Many of us came from poor families. We can read and write. We were able to move forward. So stop painting a picture that poverty is something that can be used against our children, irregardless of what the stats say. It's in the minds of the adults. And one of the things that is clear, in order to move things forward, we have to change the mindset of the adults in order for our children to grow. I see a hand up. Mr. Scott, do you have something you'd like to share?
I was going to share this when we did updates, but since we're on this topic real quick, I just want to clarify for the public. The chairman and CEO of M&T Bank was quoted in the Buffalo News characterizing this board as not being transparent, not being inclusive, making decisions behind closed doors. And I want it clear that we had a hearing for Westminster, a public hearing for Westminster, a public hearing for Enterprise, and then we convened 2 nights of I think 5-hour meetings each discussing our action on these 2 charter schools. So there was nothing done behind closed doors. These were public meetings. They were open to the public, and I want that corrected for anybody that's listening out there. Thank you.
Well, I'd like to add on to that. In 2017, we were approached by M&T Bank to take back Enterprise. Okay, so let the record reflect what has been going on behind the scenes. Okay, let that record reflect that. Okay, I want that to be clear with that. Okay, and that conversation continued. It was not a new conversation. Okay, so let the record reflect that transparency, that was done behind closed doors. Okay, Mr. Scott, I just want you to put that in there for you, let them know that there's some stuff going on behind closed doors. Okay, stop painting that picture. Okay, so in moving forward, my apologies for stepping a little bit off the agenda, but yes, there's another hand.
Prior to us moving forward, I want to at this time thank all of our speakers this evening by phone or video, and ask that you please log off at this time. So we greatly appreciate your contributions and your speaking to the board and the public, but we do ask that you either log off your video or log off your phone. Thank you very much again.
And you are able to go back on and listen. And thank you, Dr. Brown Hall, for that. Appreciate you, really do. Moving forward, thank you so much. Moving forward, I need a motion to accept the previous board minutes. May I have a board member? I see Lou Petrucci and I see Jennifer Macuzzi. All in favor? Raise your hand. Any opposition? Any opposed? Thank you. I appreciate that. Moving forward, I want to board the committee reports. Okay, I am going to limit each committee report to no longer than 3 minutes. If you feel that you need more than 3 minutes, I need to know that tonight. Okay, I need to know. Does anyone think that that's unfair at this time of the evening? Is everyone okay with that? Mr. Hurd, do you have a problem with that? Or you have your speaker?
Yes, President Bellin Cotton, I will need more than 3 minutes to address the youth risk behavior survey this evening.
So are you saying that you plan to go over the entire survey, because it is not complete? It was presented in a snapshot to us, and that they are going to bring back additional information on that, and that was done at a committee meeting. So
Yes.
I need some clarity here, because the purpose for the committee report is just to give basic information. And if people need additional information, they can go to the YouTube, bring up the board meeting for that day, okay, and see the entire conversation, okay? So I need to be clear, that when we are here, our job is basically to just give the public a brief explanation of what happened, and then they can be referred to the YouTube if they need it, or they can contact you directly for additional support. Okay? We need to make sure that we are about moving the consent agenda and handling our meetings in a more timely manner. So I am requesting that at the most 5 minutes would be allowed. But that is the reason for the committee report, just to give a brief synopsis of what's happening, and board members can share what they're doing. And if everybody recognizes that we have given our public a limit on the time that they can speak, we don't have to worry about things going on and on and on. Is anyone does anyone have a problem with that this evening? I don't want to disrespect anyone. I don't want to, but I'm really trying to move forward and get to the business of the board. Okay, everybody's nodding. Most of the people are nodding. They're okay.
President Cotman, one more time. I'm sorry to keep interrupting, but if I can please have Ms. Vanetta Rhodes and Mr. Louis D'Angelo log off. Mr. D'Angelo, if you could please log off, we'd appreciate it. And Ms. Rhodes, if you could please log off. Thank you very much. I'm sorry. Thank you.
And Jennifer, I'm seeing you twice. I'm not sure why. I just wanted to let you know in case something happens. Okay.
I am also, yes.
Just letting you know
too.
in case something happens. Okay, you're cloned today. Okay, so moving forward, who would like?
Should I log off and come back on? That's crazy. I only see me once.
One is only moving, so it's like one is frozen.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
All right. Okay, I just want you to know, because I don't, want you to lose out on anything. Okay, so moving forward, can we start with our committee reports and any board work that has been done by board members that would fall under ad hocs or are subsequent to committees? Dr. Kathy Evans-Brown, can you start off this evening? Do you have a report for your student?
So this is from the student, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so this is from the student achievement meeting of April 14th. Primarily, we focused in on updating the New York State Regents exams in grade 3 through 8th tests. Our OSA, Ebony Bullock, Office of Student Accountability, presented a robust presentation, and she talked about the communication that's going on in terms of assessments update with parents. An assessment memo was sent out on March 26th. On March 17th, the Board of Education, presented a resolution on state assessments in a pandemic. And then on the 7th of April, the United States Department of Education denied the New York State Education Department waiver request to cancel all New York State assessments. So as a result, there are going to be a limited amount of testing for grades 3 through 8. For example, I'm not going to go through all of this. For example, the ELA Book 1 only will occur from April 19th through the 27th, 2021. The Regents exams will be condensed as well, and those consist of Algebra 1 on June 23rd, English ELA Arts June 17th, Living Environment, which is Earth Science, June 22nd, and then, Living Environments and then Earth Science. Both will be conducted on June 22nd and June 24th, respectively. There were some parent concerns. For example, I'm not going to go through all of this, but just to give you a breath of what happened during that meeting, one of the questions the parents were concerned about was, what is the penalty for non-participation in these assessments? And the answers were, students will not be penalized as a result of non-participation in this year's New York State assessments or Regents exams. Secondly, schools will not be penalized for participation rates in terms of state accountability status. Second question, will students who participate in 100% remote learning take this year's New York State assessments? Answer, parents' families may choose to allow their children to participate in this year's assessments, even if they participate in 100% remote learning. Parents and families will be contacted by their children's school to determine their wishes. And then lastly, the last concern that the parents had was, will students have to retake these tests, especially Regents, next year to receive credit? The answer, no. Students will not be required to retake any assessments that they did not participate in this year. In the case of students who do not participate in Regents exams, they will be awarded credit if they complete all their coursework and pass the class. This will appear as an E for exempt on the student's transcript, and the exemption will count towards the student's graduation requirements. That was it in essence, because I know that, the real concern for parents and other stakeholders is how do we assess students during this pandemic in terms of remote learning. So that is where we are. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kathy Evans Brown, for that report for student achievement. Does anyone want to volunteer, or you want me to call you out? I'll call on Paulette Woods for Finance and Ops.
The Finance and Ops Committee received a report from our CFO and Dr. Katch, thanking our delegation for their lobbying to get us significant foundation aid increases in state aid revenue, and they committed to a 3-year full funding of our foundation aid. That's just a significant increase in aid and a significant achievement that they've been fighting for a long time. The CFO also presented that we are going to save $24 million on reissuing bonding for our joint school capital debt. So we are saving monies in that way. And the New York State School Board Association also gave us a presentation on the requirements for the $249 million federal American Rescue Act funds. So there's significant progress being made. Our budget is looking significantly better. We're no longer having to say we were going to have a 20% cut and there were going to be dire consequences. We are doing significantly better, and we are working to produce a budget. And at this meeting, we have a 4-year plan, which is a very positive impact. We also had a board retreat, which was very positive also. That's my report.
Thank you, Board Member Paulette Woods. Next, we have Mr. Terrence Hurd from the Student Support Committee.
Thank you, President Cotman. First, Educational Support Committee meeting. I would like to just go over, we had 2 presentations last Wednesday. One was Medaille College Youth Inspired Programs, and the other one was Youth Risk Behaviors, the overview and the data segregation. Now, go with Medaille College. I'll go through this quickly as possible. Dr. Kenneth Maker, also with his colleagues Michelle Sawyers, Shireen Salome, and Kenya Hobbs, presented about Medaille College and the future outlook and their relationship with the Buffalo Public Schools. They have a very strong relationship. We've been working with Medaille for years now, and they've been working within a couple of our schools here in the city of Buffalo. McKinley, to name one. Another one is MST, and other projects that's becoming available that Dr. Cash was very, very inspirational of saying that he's willing to work with the district. Medaille College, all schools went through a difficult time, but they're coming out strong with some very innovative programs. They address special scholarship programs and racial inequity and roundtable talk. They have a new sports program. And also, I don't want to be to sound like I'm doing a commercial for Medaille, but they're very good colleagues. And they do the one thing, they're the first college in the nation that if your child go to Medaille College for 4 years and graduate, that the parent could go to school for free for 4 years. So it's the first college in the nation to ever do anything like that. And so they just want you to take a look at their programs and some of the innovative things that they're doing over at Medaille. The next part of the program was the Buffalo Public Schools 2019 YRBS analysis and reporting. Now I'll try to go as quick as possible, but there's a lot of details in here that I don't want you to miss. And this is the preview for the finishing of this analysis. It was done by Patrick Madden, Vice President at Market Decisions Research, and also presented by Dr. Tanja Williams here in Buffalo. This YRBS stands for Youth Risk Behavior Surveillance, and it talks
Survey.
about
Survey.
Listed as surveillance survey.
Okay.
That also talks about programming and policy development. It talks about student health and improvement with academic outcomes and support for individual schools to create an action plan specific to their needs. So it's how we can help develop programs for each and every one of our schools according to the needs of those buildings and according to the needs of our students. And also it has some information here about teachers also. It's designed for improvements in services. The improvements in Services Administration to improve data quality and reduce missing data. Is also bring attention to academic, the school climate, and other administrative data to more clearly demonstrate a link between health and other outcomes. And also in weighting data outset by school enrollments to align with the CDC protocols to improve representatives and the results. It has some very staggering numbers that came across this data in this survey. And one of them is that we look at our middle school surveys. Middle school in the city of Buffalo is over 6,300 students that were surveyed in our middle schools. In high schools, we had over 7,222 people that were surveyed. So they surveyed a great percentage of our kids and got some results. Some of the most serious things that we found out doing this is seeing the seriousness of the things that we talked about today was kids that seriously contemplated suicide. And in 2019, it shows that the New York State average was 17.3%. And 2019 here in Buffalo, we had in high schools an average of 13.9% of our children that was contemplated suicide. We also had some staggering things that kids didn't feel safe to go to school. About 10% of our children that was rated at that time felt unsafe about coming to classrooms. And these are some of the concerns that we have about children and their grades and coming to school and behavior patterns within the schools. So I'm not going to go deep into all of these as of today, but there are a prevalent use of alcohol within our facilities, according to state average, and seriously considering the kids that were bullied. We had bullying that was up about 40%, but the survey also says some of the good things that the district is doing also.
I'm glad to hear that.
You dig back into the survey and see some of the things that we are highly achieving in, but with the completion of the survey, plan on going to committee meeting and really have our parents to understand what's going on in our buildings and teachers and how we can plan for a better future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hurd. Board Member Larry Scott, you have something you'd like to say?
Real quick, from what I remember from that presentation, it gave a comparison to state trends. And in many of those areas, including perceived feeling like schools weren't safe, it compared to the state trend. And we were actually below state trends for alcohol use and other substance abuse as well. So just
there were a lot of positive trends on that, and this is why I encourage us as our constituents, if they want to listen to that particular meeting, they can go online, but it was a snapshot. It is not the complete report. The complete report has yet to be presented before the board, and we recognize that it is delayed due to COVID. But our concern, and I want the board to be thinking about questions that they would like to see, directions that we would like to go on in with the next report. The next report, because we can craft certain questions for that report. So I really want you guys to be, but overall, in my opinion, it was a very positive report. It showed that our trends were going, that there were some of the interventions that we had put in place in most cases were impacting our children in a positive way. And that's the reason for having the complete report, because when that complete report is put before us, you also have the staff members who are working with the social emotional issues, who can also provide guidance and preview into where these numbers are actually coming from, and so to provide us with some substance. So that was just a preliminary report. But I'm encouraged by what we saw in that report. Particularly, I think this is our second or third report that we've had, if I remember right. All right, Mr. Hurd, are you through with your report at this point?
Yes, and to just to react to some of your commentary, it's like vaping use is very low here in the city of Buffalo compared to state averages. We also have a couple other things that, that's below in state averages, but there are a couple of things that's higher, that we have in middle school and high school. Just only a few, but anything for drug usage, we actually compare very well against state average in the city of Buffalo compared to New York State.
Absolutely, because we certainly don't have problems with ecstasy in our district. Hallelujah. Okay. So anyway, in moving forward, okay. Thank you very much. Okay, so we have Lou Petrucci, Vice President. Do you have anything to share with us? And after this, if there's any other board members that would like to talk about any work that they're doing, that the board needs to be brought up to date on, it will be open at that point.
Thank you, President Cotman. This week I had the opportunity to participate briefly in the South Park site-based management team. It was about college applications, and what was concerning to me was that, at least at South Park, that many of our seniors were holding applications in abeyance because they didn't know what's going to happen in the fall. So I don't know if it's going to be a trend across the whole district, but there seems to be a significant amount of students that weren't applying to schools just because they didn't know what the fall would hold for them. And they didn't know if they wanted to continue remote learning, or they didn't want to delay until such times they could go in person. But that was one thing that I took away from that is maybe something we want to take a look at as a district. I know that in my committee that met last week, the one thing that I know that we were working on through the Revenue Ad Hoc Committee, and then on my committee, in general was part of the bond refinancing, and I was glad to see that we received some information as to how much the district is actually going to benefit from the refinancing of the Joint Schools Construction Board. So that was some good news to receive this week. On a side note, I participated, or I'm participating in the Harriet Tubman Run. I'm a runner, for those who don't know, and it's going to, the race benefits the Omega Mentoring Program, which is trying to keep kids on track to make sure that they go to college if that is their desire to do so. The DPC has reached out to me that they are looking to do some type of memorialization for Lloyd Hargrave, who was an educational advocate in the district for many, many years. I know that we've been kind of going back and forth with Wendy Mistretta about how to best do that. But I'll update the district or my fellow board members in the district as things evolve. And last, because I know we have my 3-minute timer, the New York State School Boards Association, the Resolution Committee, is starting their work once again. So if there are any matters, topics, or specific resolutions that you would like to see the committee advocate for, and then they would bring it to our elected officials in Albany, please let me know so we can start the process early. I'm going to pick up where Larry and I left off last year because we ran out according to time, but I think that the resolution that Mr. Scott proposed is still prescient, and we will go from there. But if there's something else that the board feels is worthy, please let me know and we will draft a resolution. Thank you very much, President Cotman.
Thank you. Mr. Scott, do you have any update on the charter schools? Have you done anything with that since our last meeting? I know that you have been doing like some work, you know, trying to get it together, but if you want to hold off until you talk with the charter school committee, ad hoc committee, before you share that information, I can appreciate that. But I do think that I just want to make sure that if we can, moving forward, every meeting that we talk about what's going on with charter schools in this district, even if it's just that you provide some stats and a percentage so that our parents, who are the majority of parents in this city, can understand the impact of what's going on with charter. So I'm sorry to put you on the spot today, but I just know that I just want to start moving forward with that at every meeting. Thanks.
Thank you, President Cotman. I don't have an official update, but just one update that was brought to our attention yesterday. The Buffalo Commons Charter School that was approved by SUNY Charter School Board of Trustees has been delayed. They were expected to reopen for this coming school year. They're being delayed 1 year to reopen in 2 years.
Thank you for that update. Are there any other board members that have anything they'd like to share? I'm sorry, Mr. Hurd, your hand is up. Your speaker is not on. And I can't see hands. I don't know why, Darren, I'm not able to see hands today. Okay,
I'd like to inform the board and all of our colleagues that's listening in about the 2021 Excellence in Education Award ceremony, which is going to be viewed on WBBZ TV on May 2nd this year. So just keep your TVs tuned to the Excellence Education Award 2021. We have a very strong committee that put a lot of work into it. We have over 400 nominations from teachers from Buffalo schools, charter schools, and private schools. So we want to include all our educators, teachers, administrators, and support staff members, that work with our children to help them, achieve excellence. We had last Saturday, we had a red carpet event where 125 of our nominees who were selected as finalists that came to walk the red carpet over at Buff State. And also, just quickly, we have Cameron Woods. He's one of our hosts. He's a graduate from Performing Arts High School and lives out in LA now, so we flew him in. And he's one of the people that does the movie called Inshore. It's a sitcom that's on HBO. And Emily Lampa, she's an AM Buffalo host. She's going to be our other host for the evening. We have stars like Steve Tasker and
Mr. Hurd, no disrespect to you. I don't want to cut you off, but you do realize that should be something that should not be during a committee time. You do realize that.
You said other work that we're doing. I apologize.
Yeah.
No,
yeah, I just,
other work that we're doing in the district. So those are people that's going to be aboard Daniel Croy of the Oval. So at May 2nd, we honor our teachers and give them some time to reflect and also to give them, to uplift them in the work that they do with our children.
Okay, thank you for that. But that should, in the future, that would have been under unfinished business, not during committee report time. Thank you. I appreciate that. Okay, may I have a motion to accept the consent agenda? I see two hands went up, Dr. Kathy Evans Brown, as well as Board Member Larry Scott. All in favor? Okay, we're moving. No opposed. Yes. Good. Okay, let's move forward. Okay, so what I have here are about 5 items. The only board member that has questions is Mr. Hurd, and I want to make sure, we're good with this. They have you down for. Lisa has you down for number 17B, that you have a comment.
And just to clarify, Mrs. Board President Cotman, other board members, their questions were answered in the document that I sent out, and some of those were also answered for Mr. Hurd on the document I sent out. So we'll see how many still need to be answered, I guess, when you go through it.
Okay, thank you. So 17B is Lamar Advertising for Community Schools. Mr. Hurd.
I just wanted to say that the district doing a great job of actually doing promotions with some of the programs that we're doing with our schools and our community schools. So I just want to give our district, Dr. Cash, a thumbs up for starting to promote, within our community, to see some of the things that we're doing here in the district in the city of Buffalo. That's all. Everything else has been answered through email. Thank you.
Everything has.
Mr. Hurd, we're going to refresh all of those billboards, and we're going to dominate them. We're going to take over every billboard in the city and advertise what's going on with the Buffalo Public Schools.
Thank you, Dr. Cash.
Thank you. It'd be nice to get a couple of articles in some of the local newspapers too. We've got some prolific people in our district. They need to share what they're doing. They really do. Does anyone else have any questions about the consent agenda? I'm glad your questions were answered, Mr. Hurd. Does anyone have any additional questions? Okay, if that be the case, Nate Kuzman, are you there?
I am, President Gottman.
May we move forward with taking the vote for our consent agenda?
Yes. Dr. Kathy Evans Brown, on the consent agenda, how do you vote?
No exceptions, yes.
Mr. Hurd.
Are we yet to address the Jesse Ketchum? What number was that on the agenda?
Oh, well, that was number, one moment, I'm sorry, that was number 23A.
Number 20. Number 23A. I will yes for everything but the Jesse Ketchum Awards.
So exception 23A.
Exception 23A, yes.
Okay, other than that, no exceptions. Board Member J.
Exceptions.
No exceptions? Okay. Board Member Makosi.
Exceptions.
Board Member Petrucci.
No exceptions.
Board Member Rivera.
Exceptions.
No exceptions? Okay. Board Member Scott. Board Member Woods.
No exceptions.
Thank you. And President Belton Cotman?
No exceptions.
Okay, consent agenda passes. Thank you.
Okay, board members. So typically during this time, what we do is we do our bereavement list, and then we go into executive session. Nate Kuzman has requested that we go into executive session today. And so, Mr. Petrucci, do you have the list?
I do, President Cotman.
Would you do
Could we all rise, please? Thank you, fellow board members. The bereavements for the April 21st meeting of the Buffalo Board of Education 2021. On March 26, State Trooper Joseph J. Gallagher, son of retired PECTA Union President James Gallagher. On April 2nd, Audrey R. Daniels, grandmother Laquita Shetrick, CTE teacher at McKinley High School, and Tanika Shetrick, principal of Build Community School. April 5th, Anita Melendez, sister of Yvette Feliciano, an account clerk typist with the Buffalo Board of with the Buffalo Public Schools. April 9th, Jim, affectionately known as Joe Lewis Holly, father of Tammy Holly McGee, Deputy Director of Human Resources. April 9th, Ronald Wayne Pugh Sr., retired physical education teacher and head football coach at East, South Park, and Burgard High Schools. April 17th, Larisha Johnson, a senior waiting to graduate at MST High School, sister of Kenesha Johnson of Burgard and Terry Johnson of Riverside. Can we please have a moment of silence? Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Vice President Petrucci. So the board, I'm going to ask that I have a motion. I need a motion to go into executive session for the purpose of, 1, to discuss the negotiations for the lease of real property. 2, to discuss information related to a current investigation of a criminal offense that, if disclosed, would impel effective law enforcement. And 3, to discuss the potential discipline of a specific district employee. In addition, number 4, for the purpose of discussing collective negotiations with the Buffalo Education Support Team. May I have a motion, please? Thank you, Jennifer. Second by Lou Petrucci. All in favor? Anyone opposed? So moved. Board members, would you like a 5-minute break, or is that sufficient? 5 is good? We're good with 5, so we'll, how about 6? We'll meet at 8:20. Nate Kuzman needs to get upstairs as well. How's that? That's a 6 minute.
On the computer, Mr. Lucci just needs to let me in.
Okay. Lou, would you have him let Nate in? Thank you, board members.
Live. We are live now. I will turn it back over to President Kottman.
It's 10:33 p.m. The board went into executive session and no actions were taken. May I have a motion authorizing the superintendent to pursue Section 75 charges on employee with the initial C.L. May I have a motion? Dr. Cassie Brown, second by Lou Petrucci. All in favor, please raise your hand. Or do we need a, Nate, do I need a
so raise of the hands would be fine.
You sure? Okay. Raise our hands. Okay. Anyone who is opposed, let the record reflect that Hope J is no longer in the meeting and did not vote. Thank you. All right. So our last item of unfinished business is there was an email sent out by Dina in regards to doing a 2-hour session on April the 30th, which is Friday of next week from 5 to 7. Is it possible for the board to accommodate her?
I didn't see that email about Friday.
Well, that makes 2 of us, but that's what Nate has advised me of. I mean, Darren advised me of before he left, so it must be out there. That's what Darren asked me to ask the board before he left, so it may have come out late.
Larry Scott said he could make it on Wednesday, the initial date, and he said Friday, so I think most people said that was cool to accommodate him.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So is that a bad day for people?
I thought that the suggestion was Wednesday because it's a normal, board
Larry?
day.
Larry, did you say you couldn't make it on a Wednesday?
I can't do next Wednesday.
Right,
Oh,
okay. So she moved it to Friday from 5 to 7.
But
Okay.
Marie sent an email to all of us with different dates today.
All I know
the
is that
27th, the 4th, and the 11th. Yeah.
all Darren asked was, can you do it on April the 30th from 5 to 7 is what he asked me to ask the board tonight.
Yes. Do we raise our hands, or how do you want to do this, Sharon?
Yeah, well, who can't? Let's go that way.
Who's to attend? Is everybody?
All board members.
All 10 board members?
All 9 board members are going to attend this at this point until tomorrow, until I talk to Nate. It's the will of the board.
Should we take a vote on that?
Take a vote on what?
The will of the board.
What's Friday?
Nate, your mic is not on, Nate.
Well, we can deal with this right now. The feedback that I've gotten from the board is that they don't believe that the superintendent should be at these meetings at this point in time, and that the other 9 board members have work to do until for future meetings. And there may be a time, but it's not at this moment. It's not the next meeting for Dr. Cash to get involved. So that's the feedback that I've received. I have not gotten a position from the board president, but I'll share that with her now, that that's the consensus that I received back. If anybody wants to say any more on it at this point, they can, but that's where it is.
Well, I have to agree with the board, and I'm glad that the board is mindful enough to know that it is important that we work together and solidify our work that needs to be done before we bring on our only employee. And that's what I agree with the majority of the board on this situation. Now, does anybody want to take a vote on it? Do we need to take a vote on it, Nate? Because it was previously voted, it wasn't previously voted on, it was just agreed on. We don't have to? Okay.
I don't think
so. We're not required to take a vote. Does anybody disagree with what Nate said in regards to your position? You're all in agreement with what Nate said? There's not a problem. Okay, fine. All right, so it's been resolved at this point. Okay, now back to April the 30th. Can we all agree that we will do April the 30th from 5 to 7?
Yes.
Yes, yes, everybody agree? Okay, then Darren will be happy and we'll move forward. And thank you so much for that. Is there anything else that the board needs to discuss? Because other than that, we're ready to conclude this meeting. All minds are clear?
I just wanted to recognize Laurie Maciello. She's retiring from 20 years. She's retired from working at MST. And I just wanted to say I wish her the best. And I don't know what else we do to send letters to thank people for 20 years of their lives, but I wanted to say thank you.
Well, that was nice of you. I'm glad. Nice. I don't even. That's nice. Okay. With that said, may I have a motion to adjourn? Jen, I saw your hand go up. Second by Larry Scott. All in favor?
Aye.
Any people opposing? I don't think so. Thank you for your time. We appreciate you.
Have a good night.
Bye bye. Good night. Stay safe.